Story 1. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my brother and his pregnant girlfriend out of my house? I, 28 female, know this sounds terrible, but please bear with me. My brother, 24 male, is the only son in our family, and I don't know about anywhere else, but in an Asian family, it's basically a given that he was treated better than my older sister and me growing up. Our father passed away right before my brother graduated high school, and our beloved mother decided it was a good idea to make my sister and me pay for his college tuition because my father paid for our tuition until we graduated. For the record, I don't make tons of money. It's above average, but I'm not exactly swimming in cash. Plus, I work long hours. The economy sucks these days. Now I'm married. I proposed to this beautiful man, 28 male, I've known since middle school after he got into a terrible accident that caused him to lose almost all of his motor skills. He was in a coma for about 2 weeks, and I swore that if he woke up, I'd marry him. So I did. I'm a woman of my word, after all. He also lost his job because of the accident, but he still has income from his investments, and his parents gifted him one of their property to rent out afterward. Yes, his parent is loaded with capital L. Even without financial trouble, I still watched him fall into a deep slump, struggling with depression because he'd been robbed of everything he knew: his job, his active outdoor hobbies. He couldn't walk for almost a year, and to this day, he still can't stand or walk for too long, even with his cane. He was in a dark place until about a month before our wedding. Now, almost a year into our marriage, I can see the light starting to come back to his eyes after getting really into cooking and baking, to the point where we revamped our entire kitchen to fit a bigger oven and store all his baking equipment. He's actively researching how to get a permit to start a bakery, and I love seeing it, even after 3 weeks of eating sourdough bread for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Back to my brother. He and his girlfriend got pregnant by accident. He's currently job hunting, having graduated 2 years ago. He started a business right after college, but yeah, you probably know how that goes. It failed after he spent almost all the money our father left to us, his 3 children, as inheritance. That caused a rift between him and my oldest sister. I don't blame my sister for being furious because he also spent her share of the inheritance after paying his tuition. And if you know anything about Asian families, you know the oldest daughter has it the hardest. He's also not really on great terms with our mother because of the unplanned pregnancy. She's not exactly against his girlfriend, but she's not thrilled either. However, he's still the golden child, and that's why she asked me, her newlywed daughter, to let my brother and his girlfriend stay in our house until he finds a job. Since I live in a big city, she assumed it'd be easier for him to get hired here. I asked my husband if I could rent one of the rooms he owns to accommodate them. My husband, being the absolute angel he is, said that since what he owned aren't exactly suitable for long-term living with a baby, he'd see if he could remodel one. They could move in once it was ready and only start paying rent once my brother got a job. In the meantime, they could stay in our upstairs guest room. I've read stories about situations like this being recipes for disaster, and damn, I should have listened. They moved in sometime before Christmas. Both of them did the bare minimum around the house. They washed their own dishes, but only the small ones like plates, glasses, and bowls, leaving the pots and pans for us to clean. They did their own laundry, but that's it. They'd raid our pantry and fridge without ever restocking anything. Some days, I didn't even get a taste of my husband's baked goods. They'd eat the ones he specifically set aside for me. I had to wash dishes that I knew my husband didn't use, even after pulling 2 consecutive shifts at the hospital. I'm a freaking resident. They never vacuumed the second floor where they stayed, never helped take out the trash even though they filled it to the brim. I usually helped him with it whenever I got time, but I had seen my husband taking out trash multiple times when I just got home. I don't expect them to clean the whole house, but come on, watching my husband limp around with his cane, washing dishes and taking out the trash while they did nothing? That's just rude, especially when they're living rent-free. Of course, I confronted them with a very watered-down and gentle version of bro. You won't get a job if you can't even help take out the trash, and sis, you're pregnant, but you can at least wash the dishes you use. Both of you have 2 hands, you can wash the cooking utensils you use to make food. Teamworks make the dream works. They got slightly better after that. Now they wash all their dishes, but don't bother putting them back in the drawers. But hey, progress! Now, here's the breaking point. During Chinese New Year, my mother and oldest sister came to visit. My husband went all out with his cooking. I cleaned the entire house and prepared the other guest room for my family. That's when I realized the second floor hadn't been vacuumed in ages. My brother and his girlfriend didn't come out of their room until my family arrived. We exchanged greetings, gave my mother her New Year's bow, and sat down for dinner. That's when all hell broke loose. My brother, with confidence straight out of his colon, actually said it was time for my husband to get a real job again because he can walk now. He added that he's younger but working hard to find a job. Then he really added the words, "no offense," before saying, "Cooking is a weird hobby for a big guy, 6'3", like him, and also he doesn't really have the talent for it." His girlfriend chimed in, saying she feels like my husband is more feminine than she is because he takes care of the house and cooks better than she does. Of course, the bar is somewhere below Satan's throne if she's the standard. She even said she and my brother keep asking my husband why he's still at home when it's been years since his accident, and that I'll leave him soon if he keeps being cooped up in the house. She then whined about how my husband always just smiled at them and never responded. I think even my brother realized she'd messed up because he quickly backpedaled, saying it was only once or twice. I just stood up, took both their plates, and told them to pack up and leave. I couldn't even look at my husband. I was so pissed and ashamed of them. It took every ounce of self-control not to curse them out right then and there. They said I was being too sensitive over harmless comments. My mother tried to defuse the situation, saying my brother and his girlfriend meant well, that their comments didn't come from a bad place, and even pointed out that my husband didn't seem offended, so she asked, "Why ruin a good day?" Which I ignored. I even handed them my car keys because I just wanted them gone. They left with my oldest sister after giving my husband a half-hearted apology. She told me they stayed at a motel before returning back to my mother's house. The next day, my older sister came by to pick up my brother's stuff. She laughed a lot about the whole ordeal, and she's the only one who thinks I did the right thing. My husband said he was glad I defended him, but he never took their comments to heart because he knows I love what he's doing, so he suggested I might have been a little harsh. My mother later told me their words weren't a good enough reason to kick out my struggling brother and pregnant girlfriend. She really emphasized the pregnant part. She said I could have just scolded him like I did over the dishes. Yep, he tattled about that too. I still don't think I am the asshole, nor I'm overreacting. I'm still pissed off, to be honest, but now I'm second-guessing myself because even my husband was so chill about it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Good for you for standing up for your husband and hopefully teaching your ungrateful and lazy brother and his girlfriend a lesson. They need to step it up since they chose to be irresponsible and get pregnant. I can't believe their audacity to say such things at your house where they were living for free. Bro and girlfriend were clearly projecting their insecurities, but it worked out perfectly because they were going to get kicked out eventually anyway. This way, OP spared her and husband more months of arguments with dirty food thieves. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your brother stole inheritance. He's a thief. He's a lazy a-hole who knocked up his girlfriend, doesn't work, is disrespectful of your home and husband when he's staying for free and being a horrible guest. You were too kind and let it go for far too long. You weren't too harsh. Actions and words have consequences. Never lift a finger for your brother ever again. He's entitled because your mother especially, but you've all been enablers. Now that I think about it, you're right. I also contributed to enabling him to some degree. Lesson learned, and never again thanks for the response anyway. The difference between your husband and brother is miles apart. Your husband cooks, cleans, is looking for a new future and can support himself. Your brother is ungrateful, spoiled brat, who can barely look after himself, stole his sister's inheritance because he just had to ask Mummy, and she handed it over. And once he went through it all, just decided to freeload of his family through Mummy, because that is all he knows. My mom does exactly the same to my brother. My brother is close to 30, and my mom still has to feed him with her salary. My brother is unemployed. My mom is 65. I told her you could feed him until you died as long as he wouldn't bother me. But if you ran out of your retirement money, I wouldn't help you. I left house when I was 17, and she didn't even give me a cent for my college or rent. I worked to death and only slept 4 hours per day, was homeless to survive. Not the a-hole. Your mom can take them in since she has such strong opinions on it. Protect your space and protect your immediate family, which is your husband and not your brother and his girlfriend, who probably got knocked up on purpose. Having toxic people around will make your husband regress in his progress. Imagine what they say to him when you're not around. F them. Story 2. Am I the a-hole here for changing my mind on wanting kids and saying I've never been more disappointed in my wife? My wife and I are both 27. We got married at 21. I know that's young. We never wanted kids and agreed to it. In August, my wife's sister and her husband died. We minded their kids, 6 and 3, since. She is a godmother to the 6-year-old, and I'm a godfather to the 3-year-old. We had a really good relationship with the couple. Her husband was my pub football buddy, etc. We recently were asked our intentions with the kids. We had a huge fight. She wants to put them in care, but I don't. Financially, we are very good. No debt. Own our home, inherited. I have a successful business. She has been very successful so far in her job, etc. She said she doesn't want to be tied down to kids. I said it wouldn't have been my first choice, but they are family. She said I knew you'd change your mind on kids. I was like, I didn't change my mind. The circumstances changed. I asked her if she didn't see a duty to them. She said no. She said they'll get a family, maybe with kids already in the home, and they will be better off. And I said if they don't get a family, or if they get a family that isn't great. She said, I'm not minding them. The ball's in your court, she said. I asked if she's 100% certain. She said, yeah. I was honestly shocked and said I've never been more disappointed in her. She said likewise. We have never argued ever. Maybe a fun argument over what show to watch. We aren't even talking. We still give each other a morning kiss and cuddle, but that's about it. Selfishly, there's a tiny part of me wondering if she would feel any responsibility to me if something happened to me. I know that's unfair. I also find it incredibly heartless. The eldest still cries many nights. You can see the sadness in him. To say into care you go. Au revoir. It's mind-blowing to me. Just for balance, I do love her and she is a great woman. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Is there nobody else that can take the kids? You're young. What about the sister's parents or the brother-in-law's parents? Other siblings, uncles/aunts? I'm confused on why foster care seems to be the only other option. Immediate family? No. The only other sibling is his sister, and she's 20-ish. She does babysit in fairness to her. Widening net to cousins, etc., none stepped forward. They definitely are there on my wife's side at least. Not sure about his side. No a-hole here. Yet. Would you be willing to parent these children without your wife? If so, then it's time to talk to a lawyer. If not, then it's time to talk to a couples counselor. If you are determined to be these children's parent, you will be doing it alone. Your wife has made it clear there are 0 circumstances under which she wants to be a parent. You will wind up either divorced, or the children will grow up knowing they are unwanted orphans. If you are not willing to parent these children alone, you're still going to have to deal with that. You're going to resent her until the decision sits right with you. And that might be never. This is the correct response. You have not been an a-hole. It's a tragic situation that said, she is not wrong either. This will most likely end your marriage, and it's a tough spot you have to choose. She made it clear up front her view of her life. You agreed to that view. Your view changed hers, didn't. So you either go back to the lines you both drew together, or get ready to start drawing lines without her. She's not wrong or a bad person for this. If you choose her, you have to do it under the pretense you can never resent her for this. Can you do that? If you chose the kids and your marriage ends, would you ever resent the kids? There is not an option here that is not going to leave you with massive what-if questions. Only you can decide what's most important. You are not the asshole unless you resent your decision and others suffer for it. She's not the a-hole cause she is just keeping her word about what her life view is. There's nothing wrong with that. No a-hole here. It's a tough situation and you are stepping up, which is a good thing. These kids need as much support as they can. You're already doing more than what godparents are expected to do. Godparents are only expected to provide spiritual guidance in most religions. Anyone who doesn't believe this can read the rites of baptism or talk to a priest or pastor. However, wife is also in the right. Some people simply cannot handle kids in the long term. They have every right to choose to not have kids, let alone be forced to. Forcing someone who doesn't want kids to have them is one of the worst things you can do to the kids. They're going to have a parent who resents them and doesn't love them. The kids will see this and it will mess them up emotionally and mentally. Having a parent who doesn't want you will have a negative impact for years, maybe even life. You do not want to damage these kids more than they already are. It could be that wife is still in shock and may come around, but don't count on it. Many child-free people will not change their position no matter what. Give it some time, talk about it again, then respect whatever your wife chooses and decide from there what is more important to you, keeping the marriage or the kids. Story 3. Would I be the a-hole if I denied my neighbor's family access to my Wi-Fi? So me, 25 male, and my fiancé, 24 female, live below an older guy in our apartment complex. His name is Doug. He's super nice, kinda lonely, and has a really sweet little chihuahua. We have a pretty good relationship with him. I've helped him set up his cable and his new phone, made plates for him on nights that we had a little leftover dinner, helped get his groceries from his car. Just neighborly stuff. Well, a couple weeks ago, his daughter, son-in-law, and their 4 kids moved into his 2-bedroom apartment with him because they lost their home. I don't know the details. He told my fiancé that they would be staying with him until they got their taxes and hopefully could find a place. Now, that's a major break in the lease, but I've not said anything as I have been homeless before and understand how hard it is, especially with kids. All I've done is ask that he keeps his grandkids quiet past 9 p.m., as they've stomped and ran around and woke up me and my 2 kids multiple times. He's managed to get them quiet. His son-in-law, who he isn't a fan of, came down to our apartment a couple days ago while I was at work and asked my fiancé if he could use our Wi-Fi sometimes so that his wife could continue to homeschool their kids. She was caught off guard by the question as we've never met the guy, don't even know his name, and wasn't really expecting the question at 8 p.m. She said she didn't know anything about the Wi-Fi as a way to just run him off, and that I handled it all. He asked when I would be home, and she told him 11 p.m., and he was like, "Oh, that's too late. I'll just come by tomorrow." My fiancé advised that he shouldn't, but he did anyway. Last night around 6:45, we had just sat down to eat dinner, and he comes knocking on our door. I ignore it as I'm eating dinner, and our 3-year-old has the flu, so he was extremely fussy. A couple minutes goes by and he knocks again, and I ignore it as I'm still eating dinner and trying to get our 3-year-old to calm down and eat. I wake up this morning to a note on the door asking if they could use our Wi-Fi as Doug doesn't have it, and his kids really need to continue their curriculum. But I have a feeling they also want to just mooch off of our Wi-Fi. Also, his wife is a stay-at-home mom and has had plenty of opportunity to ask me when seeing me outside in passing. Would I be the a-hole if I denied them access? Edit. Did not expect to get this many responses to this post. I have done my best to read through as many as I can while at work. I appreciate everyone's insight and response. I know this may have seemed like common sense or dumb to post, but I've been in the sister-in-law's shoes and know what it's like to struggle, so I was a little conflicted. I appreciate everyone's answers. Thank you. Edit 2. Yes, I should have answered the door to tell the son-in-law no, but I was in the middle of handling a 3-year toddler with the flu having a meltdown, so I felt not answering was appropriate. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Don't do it. Anything someone does on your line is your responsibility. Download something illegal, commit a cybercrime, anything like that, You will have to deal with it. There was a bar I used to like to go to with free Wi-Fi. They ended it because someone downloaded a TV show over the Wi-Fi, and the bar got a DMCA letter, which was not just a scare tactic as this was a business. The bar was fined heavily. Just imagine the bad stuff someone else could do on your line and having to deal with it. I think you'll agree it's not an option. Came here to say this. I know a landlord who let the family renting the downstairs apartment from him use his Wi-Fi. It was all fine until Comcast blocked their access because the son of the family downstairs was pirating movies. Of course, it could have been a hell of a lot worse if the FBI showed up at his door asking questions about what his account was downloading. If you need plausible deniability, I'm sorry, my workplace has security requirements for my connection. I'm not allowed any connections other than my household. Or something similar. Yes, you should just be able to say no and be done. It sounds like Doug needs to get his own internet and/or upgrade what he has. But I understand if you want to keep your cordial relationship with Doug and don't want to rock the boat. That's before we get to the point that homeschooling is usually a choice, and other folks aren't required to subsidize optional life choices. You already pay for free education in your city via your taxes. If these kids need to be homeschooled for a non-optional reason, like medical, then the school will usually step in to make sure that happens. I had to homeschool my daughter for a year, and the school provided materials and a teacher that came by once a week to make sure we were on track. This was before home internet was widespread. Not the a-hole. Never give anyone your internet access that you don't 100% trust. My nephew came over to stay for a week and asked for the Wi-Fi password. I gave it to him. 2 days later, I started getting legal notices in my email from my internet provider saying I was downloading movies illegally. If I don't cease set-out activity, legal actions may follow. I went into the room, grabbed his computer while the C was sitting there. I flipped his laptop around and the little shit downloading torrents without VPN. Thank you for listening. If you like the video, consider like and subscribe. If you want more stories like these, turn on your notification to receive the latest stories.